Hello and welcome back. It is a Friday. Hello, Maddie. You'll hear this on a Wednesday, but what is the Friday vibes? Like, I need to get a vibe check because
Um,
I'm chaos.
well, you're in the middle. Did you announce it yet?
I'm moving. That's what I said.
Oh,
That's all I
okay,
said.
okay, okay. Yeah, so you're in the middle of a move. I am not in the middle of that. Currently, right now, not that we're snowed in, but Joel did not gave me the red light to not leave the house at all because I'm not a confident driver in the snow. So I
Mm.
had to cancel my facial, so had to do an at-home facial today. So that is that. Disappointing.
I mean,
Um,
like, we love a supportive king, but
we do.
do
But he
you, do I
knows that.
risk my life to go get a
Yes.
facial?
Yes.
Maybe.
It's not that like I'm a terrible driver in the snow, but I am a nervous driver. And there's like nothing worse than a nervous
Okay.
driver, right?
Yeah.
Like, and my car has not functioned since October. So I
What
know.
do you mean
So,
not functioned?
well, we didn't know what was wrong with it in October, and then we realized it was the battery. So, I
Uh,
spent like whatever, $600 to get a freaking new battery. And then I came home from Mexico in December and I went to turn the car on to go grocery shopping and it wouldn't turn on. So I literally just got new brakes, new rotor, new battery. Like the engine is probably how long have I had that car? It's probably, I don't know, like five, maybe a little more than that, maybe 6 to 8 years old.
that's
And now
not
it won't.
old. Yeah.
No, but the car is old. It's like a 2010.
Okay.
So yeah, so yeah, I'm gonna have to get it towed because we can't even jump it. Like it won't turn
Oh my
on.
God.
I know. Yeah.
God damn. You are like, instead of riding the struggle bus, you're riding whatever fucking car you have, the struggle car. That
Well, I get to
is,
drive the truck, so that's nice. Like
oh,
I
that's
don't.
fine. That's
Oh,
fine in the snow.
yeah, I'm looking for my note here. Okay, I've been making a note of like things, like, oh, I can't wait till I talk about that on the podcast.
Yeah.
And as I'm writing this, like the catch up things, I'm like, it seems like we need a catch up episode every episode.
Like low key, because there's a lot of stuff like hashtag save it for the pod because I want to see your reaction. I get it in a voice note, I get it in a text. It's always iconic, but I want to see the reaction. And I also want to like share it with like our friends, right? Like our little
Agreed.
community here, because why else are we doing this? Right? Like we're here to do
Mm,
it to share because
correct.
we're like gabbers. So I texted you this morning.
Mm-hmm.
I died. Dude, I died. You're gonna die. Okay, so I'm sitting on my couch
Mm-hmm.
waiting to start recording, and I get a text from this guy from high school, and he literally, and I have his number. Like we were friends. And if you're ever listening to this, shout out. He said, "Hey, it's name from the gym and Hinge." I screenshotted it. I've never downloaded Hinge. I've never like I figured like wrong text. I screenshotted it. My heart was like, "What the fuck?" I sent a screenshot to my friend and I was
Uh-huh.
like, oh my fucking God. And like, she didn't get the picture right away. So she's like, what? And I was like, what is going on? I'm so confused. And she's like, what are you talking about? And so she like
Mhm.
sends me a picture and she's like, I don't understand. And I was like, the picture never went through. So I resent her the picture. And she goes, what a fucking jump scare to wake up in the morning. And I was like, I don't even know. Like, I feel like I'm in like, Delulu world. And so I text back, I was like, wrong alley. Like, and he was like, oh God. I was like, this is like mortifying and
Mhm.
awkward and like I like this is so weird. I was like, why? Like jump scare on a Friday morning when you're trying to like regulate your nervous system.
Wait, what was the full text?
It said, I don't want to say his name, but it was
Right, right,
like,
right.
hey, it's B from the gym and Hinge.
Oh, that's all it said.
So he's like saying like, oh, like he must have met a girl named Allie. Text it must be spelt the same way. Texted her, hey, it's me from the gym and from Hinge. And I'm like,
Oh.
dude, I've known you since high school. Like
Ah!
I was like, I go
I
dead, wrong alley. And he was like, oh no, laughing face, laughing face. And I just like sent like the skull emoji. I was like,
It's
gagged.
all connecting for me. I don't know why I was like I could not understand. Oh, it makes so literally you've known this guy forever
I've
and he
yeah,
texted
maybe
the
I'm a
wrong
bad
alley.
storyteller too, because like I know him, so it's like I know what I'm talking about. But yeah, it was super weird. Like imagine
Uh,
like this person that you've known like since you were like 15, whatever,
uh,
text you. I'm 26, and we see each other like sometimes we're at like the same bar, not so much anymore
uh,
because I don't live there. But
mhm.
yeah, I was like jump fucking scare. Like, why is your name popping? And it was three separate texts. I was like, why is this name popping up three times on my phone? And I don't have like the banner, so it'll
Um,
just be like so and so, and it says iMessage. So I was like,
mhm,
what? And then when I read it, I was like, am I crazy? Like, is this a dream?
mhm.
Like, you ever know, like you're like, what is happening? So that was weird. Also, hope it goes well with Ali from Hinge in the gym. I mean, what else? Like what else? So yeah,
Oh, that's so funny.
talk
God,
about
that's good.
dysregulating. I was like, good
Can't say
morning.
I've ever had that one. That
I've
is
like
pretty
never
funny.
used the dating apps either. So like the dating apps.
No.
Did you?
No, because I've been with Joel for since like the Stone Ages. So
Yeah.
it's funny because it's funny because
We are grandmas.
literally my best friend was here. She was just in town for a wedding, and last night we she was showing me, she's like, "Can you look at my Hinge profile and like let me know what you think?" And,
Love.
like, but I never made any profiles like that, so it's kinda hard to say, like, what do you put? So anyway, I guess, like, this is the first time me looking at, like, someone's Hinge, and it's like you can answer, like, questions and stuff like that, and, like,
Yeah,
hers was like, something like, "Don't argue with me, like, Chick-fil-A is overrated." I'm like, "Oh, that's a good one,"
that's
whatever.
a good one.
And, it has, like, different questions, like, "Do you smoke?" And it's like, "Smoke, yes. Party, yes." And there's a pill, and she put, "No." I'm like, "Is this like, do you take drugs?" I thought that was so
Yeah.
weird, like, yeah, I didn't know that. I'm like, "Are you
Yeah.
mentally medicated?" Is that the question? But anyway, I'm like, "Let's look through your, like, the people,
Oh,
like."
yes.
Let me tell you, I'm really hoping some of these guys were just, like, better looking in person because, like, guys don't take good pictures, like, I know I am not
But
that
they're not.
photogenic.
They're not though. Because like
Oh god.
they're picking their best photos, right? Like this
But
is
a lens of a man picking a photo is, like, the same as being, I almost said deaf. Being blind, being blind, like, it's the same, like, they're like, "I don't know, that's a good photo,"
You're
like,
right. Yeah, like they'll take like a fish photo or some shit or like with the boys and it's like
yes,
okay,
yes,
like
yes.
real cute.
Yeah, so anyway, I'm looking through, and then, she tells me about this one guy she went on a date with, and I'm like, "Oh, he's, like, really cute and looks, like, accomplished." This dude this dude, let me tell you, if she doesn't marry him, I'm gonna divorce Joel and go marry.
Oh, she found a
He
gem.
Well, side note, and I don't think she's gonna care, I'm not giving names of anyone here. He is she's gonna be 30 soon. She's probably like 7, 8 years older, same as me and Joel, so I'm like, no biggie, whatever. He has his own, he's a pilot, has his own plane, just bought another
Okay.
plane, has a
Okay.
a beautiful mansion, is like a big business person. And I know. And I was like, and she goes,
Get him rich.
I know. And she was like, "We only went in one date. We haven't had a second." And, like, she had all these questions. I'm like, "Did you ask him that?" "No." I'm like, "What?" I'm like, "Go on a second date. Who cares? Just learn
Yeah.
more about him." Like, I'm like, "I wanna come hang out with you on the jet. Like, do this
Yeah,
for us."
literally, girl, like do it for the girls.
I
I don't even
know.
care if you like him. Do it for the girls.
I need to know more. So, I don't know if she's gonna go
Mm.
on a second date with him, but, oh, man, some of those were just slim pickings. I can't
Y-
imagine.
Yeah, no, I mean like bless up that I don't I've like I literally my friend like will be like we used to do this like in the like kind of the height of COVID. Like we would lay
Mhm.
in her bed and just like look through her like Tinder, her
Amazing.
Hinge, and she's like, I need to delete this again. And I was like, okay, I support that. And then she's like, I'm re-downloading again. And I'm like, I support that too. Because getting to live vicariously and look
Yes.
through these
Um,
things, I'm like, I've never had that experience. Don't really, don't care that I missed out on that because
same.
scary out there. Um,
Yes.
but so fucking wild. Like so
Yes.
wild. The type of men that are like sliding in, the type of pictures they're using, the things that they're saying, like I like ghosting. Are you 12? Like
Yes.
it's no, I can't.
Yes.
I can't. I actually can't. And I think James and I were talking about this once. We met in college. So he was like, "Yeah, I think I like had Tinder for a while, but like I didn't really use it." And I'm just like, that is so funny. Just like the fact that we're like just these like two grandmas that like have never
I
like
know.
really, and I always
I
call them
know.
the dating apps because I think it's funnier that way. The
Yes.
dating apps.
And like she was showing me the messages, like requests. I was like over like 100. I was like, how do you?
Mm,
And she is like very smart, very pretty, like well accomplished person. Like, of course, there's 100 million dudes like trying to talk to
of
her,
course.
but I was just like, I would just be like, "Ugh," and get off of it. Like I can't.
Too
Like
much.
I met Joel like naturally in the wild, like at the gym, like
Oh, you met him at
as
the
like
gym? We've never talked about that.
yeah, at the gym. Yeah, at
Oh my
CrossFit.
God.
Shout out to
Wait,
CrossFit
that's so
Steeltown
cute.
that it's closed
Hey!
down. It's
Oh
closed down.
no. So there's no more
RIP.
love stories.
No, no more than there were quite a few people that got married, divorced, all kinds, had
Oh,
children.
yeah.
You know how
Yeah.
gyms
I
are.
yeah, it's like cult like behavior and I love it.
Yes, it's
Like
a
it's
cesspool.
yeah, especially like
Love it.
CrossFit or like any types of like class things is like
Hmm.
you feel left out if you are not a regular
Yes.
because you're like, okay, I'm missing something here. But that is like what a modern day love story. Meeting at the gym.
Modern day. Now it's olden day. And I was about to
No, it
say,
is it is a modern day love story because he saw you, he was like, damn, this girl is strong, she is
mhm,
sweaty, she is
mhm.
sexy. Like, I love that. We love that.
I like that. It was actually his brother and a friend of like a person in the gym, and they're like how did it start? I can't remember like the first thing, but oh, she was like, "Maddie, are you like what do you think about like older guys?" I'm like, "I don't know. I don't really think much." And then his brother was like, "Oh, like, Joel, like, he's kind of cool." I'm like, "Yeah, like he's cute. Like, was cute, is cute." I was like, "Sure." And then I remember I was literally doing muscle ups because like I loved doing muscle ups.
Yeah.
And I remember he like walked over to me, is like, "Hey, what's up?" I'm like, "Hey." I know, I'm like
I
cringing thinking about
can't.
it.
No, I
I
can't. It's
know.
so, I love it. I love it. Like, I can just
Mhm.
imagine you're like, so, like, not picking up on like the signals. Like, I feel like if somebody was flirting with you, you'd just be like, oh, yeah, they're such a nice person. Yeah, this is great.
I mean,
You're just,
maybe.
I don't know. I mean, this is the story I'm creating in my head. I need to
Okay.
see.
Yes.
And this is, you know what? This is like the shame of it all. The fact that we're in these lovely committed relationships. We can never see each other out in the wild.
Us or other people in the wild?
No, us. Like I'm saying, like you can't, like our friends, we can't see each other like out in the wild, like dating wise. Like we don't know how
Oh.
unhinged we would be at this age.
Oh yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Because it's funny, and this is coming out obviously later than when we are
Yeah.
podcasting it. But I just wrote a post about how like I am like just like not holding back with what I want to say.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I'm just like a little like, I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. I'm gonna be nice. But like, bitch, that's exhausting. Like
Yes.
that's not me. I realize I'm like,
Yeah.
I am not the like no, I'm not.
Mm-mm,
I'm like,
mm-mm.
I fucking hate you. Like that's
Yeah.
how I
Yeah.
am.
Mm,
So, I can only imagine how ruthless I would
mm.
be. Oh my God, if I was dating, I would be fucking ruthless with men. Like, if you are
Yeah.
not motivated, if you are not disciplined, if you are not,
Maddie is like, I
dumb.
have a theoretical list in my fucking head. And even these imaginary men, they don't fucking stack up to it.
No, no. I have molded Joel into the perfect man. No one else compares. But no,
Oh, I love.
I would be so evil, so evil.
Yeah.
But I'll get off my
But evil in the best way. But like, no.
yes, yes,
Yeah.
yes, yeah.
Um, I would love to stay on this. I'm looking at the
I
clock
know, I would
because
too.
our guest is about to be in here. And Maddie, why don't you kind of like introduce her? Because obviously, like Kasidy, amazing, great. We love her. Maddie actually met her. like in person.
Yes.
And so I want you to share from like your experience why you wanted to have
Yeah.
Kasidy on the podcast.
So, and this is like not why, but I think it's just funny as you're
Sure.
talking about this, just how I was saying, like, I wish I could be this light and bubbly and like just like pours out love out of every orifice. That is Cassidy. I have never met someone so nice and just like you just feel love when you talk to her. And I'm so glad I got to meet like the first time I ever had any experience, like not even over social media, was meeting in person. So that
Yeah.
was really cool to like make a friend first in person like that before seeing them on social media.
Yeah.
But she is, I had to write this down because I don't want to forget. She's the owner and CEO of Marina Bay Yoga. It's a corporate wellness and she's a mindfulness mentor. So she has created like an empire of corporate yoga, which I didn't even think that was a thing. Kind of like if you work for a company and they have like, you know, corporate health plan, like a, you know, a
Right.
nutritionist to help you type of thing. And just like I talked to her for a little bit while we were there, obviously, and learning more about her, I just had like tons of questions about how she got to where she was, and she suffered from anxiety and why she paired that with yoga and just business things too. I think as both of us, all three of us being entrepreneurs, it's just really cool to talk to another entrepreneur and how they scaled their business the way they did. That's why I wanted to
Yeah.
talk to her because she's awesome too.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a really good interview because there are so many avenues that I
Hmm.
can
Hmm.
imagine we're going to go down. And I'm really, really excited because this is like the first guest where I feel it's going to be a different type of connection. And I'm really excited for that.
Cassidy, I am so excited to have you here. I just talked a little bit about you and how like you were just like spreading like love and happiness from like every orifice of your body. That's like how I remember you when we first met. So for you guys that don't know, I first met Cassidy at a business retreat at our mutual, all three of us actually have worked with Lacey, our business mentor. And I was like, something about this girl, this woman who's about to be a mom here, like about to burst any day. I was like, I just love everything about her and I want to know everything about her.
Oh my gosh, I could cry, not just because I'm very pregnant, but that totally makes my day. And it was so mutual. This is going to be a random fact, but there's a picture you took of me when I'm like walking across the street.
Yes, yes.
And at that point in my pregnancy, I was so sick. Like
Mhm,
I almost did not go on that retreat, like just almost had to back out.
mhm,
And I felt awful. And I was in the beginning stages of like my body changing.
mhm.
And when I saw that picture, I was like, this girl stuck with me for life. Like, if you can capture me,
Oh, oh,
but like looking like that, like I'm like, I don't even look
uh,
like that. I don't know how she did this, but she is in my life forever because if I could feel
aw,
that bad and she could like in a picture, look, I'm gonna cry, make me feel that good. It was
aw,
fascinating. And I know that might seem like a little thing, but anyways, I loved you before that picture, but that picture in my mind is like, this is what a friend is like. This is what a friend does. They capture you
aw.
looking your best, even at your worst.
I
So it's
remember.
mutual.
Oh, I remember you, poor thing. We were in the car. We had to stop and pull over because you were throwing up, and I felt so bad. I was like, "Oh, this poor girl." But we will definitely put that picture up here. You
Yeah.
were
I
just
need
walking,
to see
like
that picture.
it's like angelic. It really is. Like she's just
Oh,
walking on the street, and then just like I can't remember. Like you had like a flowy shirt on, and your bun. It was just so cute. I was like, "Oh, this is such a cute picture," and I took it.
Well,
um,
it was very sweet. It made my day.
Oh, well, I'm glad. I wanted to ask you like a bunch of million questions. So probably like one of the first things is how did Marina Bay Yoga just come to be?
Yeah. Okay. So, story time. Are you guys good? Are y'all up for stories rather than
yes.
generalizations? Okay, perfect. So, we're going to go back to 2016. I am living in Malaysia. And the summer before, I had been living in Amsterdam. And during the year kind of leading up to this point, I learned that the way my brain worked, my life experience could be categorized as OCD, obsessive compulsive disorder. And during that time, I was on a leadership team. I was running an international school that was focused on leadership development, spirituality. Specifically, it was like related to a church. And so I was in a place of a lot of authority, and I had a lot of inner stuff going on that I didn't actually feel like I could be vulnerable about.
Mhm.
And so in a lot of ways, my world was just, it felt like it was unraveling. But during the summer in Amsterdam, I had this kind of spiritual experience where I saw very, very vividly in my mind this image of a concrete ground breaking and like grass and flowers coming up from it. And so, at least here in Houston, there's a lot of like concrete around, and it's very common for this concrete to break and for grass to grow up. If you have a homeowners association, then they are going to like attack you about this. Like, you cannot have grass growing between the cracks of your concrete. But in that moment, as clear as day, I knew this kind of message was for me, and it was life will always find a way. This actually this is set in Jurassic Park, by the way. But I learned that later. I felt like the message for me was like, your foundation is built on something that can crack. And it's good that it's cracking because truth is coming up. There's a lot there. There's a lot that I walked through with that message. As you can imagine, my entire belief system started to change and evolve over the next few years. But it was during that time that I was overseas, India, Amsterdam, Malaysia, that I learned about OCD, that I learned about anxiety. And it was during that time that I started practicing yoga. So someone had said, yoga is good for stomach pain. And I had chronic stomach pain for years. I had tried every diet under the sun, paleo, like clearing everything, fasting, getting everything out of my system. And I never considered that the stomach pain was something in addition to being physical, right? And so I pop on my YouTube. I'm living overseas, and I don't tell anyone that I'm doing yoga because in this particular group that I was a part of, it was very taboo to do yoga. And
Really?
so, yes.
Why is that?
Um, I don't know if this is still true anymore, but at that time, specifically within the Christian community, it was like yoga is demonic. You're calling in, you're doing poses that are worshiping other gods. This idea that the practice itself was, because it's so deeply connected to spirituality and many parts of the world, there are a lot of Christians at that time that believed that it couldn't be separate. I
Okay.
had people calling my parents going, "Is Kasidy okay? I hear she's doing yoga." This is
Oh my gosh.
this is the extent to which people were like concerned later down the road once I started talking about it. So in the beginning, I just kind of intuitively knew like, I'm not talking about this.
Hmm. Hmm.
Slowly it would like well, you know me, Maddy, and we're getting to know each other. Like, was slowly I'm not really a lockbox. Like, I'm going to talk about what's happening in my life. And
Uh-huh.
so slowly it started to come out, but especially in the beginning, it was like yoga on my computer alone by myself, like nobody knew.
So
With
sorry to interrupt you, but when you were overseas, you were working with a
yes.
religious
Yeah.
facility. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So I was actually like one of the people who started the group that we were leading in that capacity. So basically it was like a group of people who wanted to eventually move overseas to do ministry. We were like the
Mm.
training school for them.
Okay.
Yeah, so like real intense, real deep in
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Um and so yeah, so long story short, within like a few days of doing yoga, I remember after the first practice I did, my stomach pain went away. I could sleep. Like it just progressed of like, oh my gosh, this thing is changing my life and I
Hmm.
can't tell anyone about it. And like it's bad. But
Yeah.
throughout this same time, like kind of like the picture I shared, like all my belief systems were starting to come up, and I was really starting to have to face like, what do I believe about these different things that have been going on? What's going on with this OCD thing? What is this anxiety thing? What is this depression thing? And it was like everything at once just became very on the table of I need to look at these things in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward through a lot of inner things happening, right? Lots going on there. I started learning how to teach yoga a few years later. So this was in 2016 when I first was like, oh my gosh, yoga is incredible. I remember coming home from living overseas and telling my parents, like, I'm going to teach people yoga one day. People would come and like do little classes with me. I didn't know what I was doing. And they'd be like, oh my gosh, you have to teach yoga. And I was like, I'm not, I'm not teaching anyone anything. I am helping myself right now. I am learning boundaries. Like all I'm doing is taking care of myself. I really had to like stop trying to help anyone in a big way. And I had to really focus on me. And then around 2000, what was it? 2020 is when I was like, I gotta teach yoga. I gotta teach people this stuff. This stuff has changed my life. So long story short, I learned how to teach yoga, and on the business side of things is a whole other really fun journey. But just getting up to that point was lots of ups and downs. I was actually married in between in between all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And the person I was married to at the time did not allow me to do yoga because it was demonic. And and so literally I would have to like hide to do yoga because it's literally what helped my anxiety. It's what helped my OCD.
Mm-hmm.
And so lots of little intricate stories like that along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And I was sitting at the table with a couple of my friends, and I said, I gotta like start this yoga thing. And so here's the name I like. And Marina Bay Yoga is what came out specifically because that's where I started practicing in Malaysia. I lived in a condo called Marina Bay Yoga condos. So here we
I
are.
love the name.
I love that. That is like, it's
Thanks.
so special. Like every time you think of
Mhm.
your journey and where you started, I love a name that actually has like emotion behind it versus just like, oh, it sounds cute. Like, this is it. Like,
Mhm.
when it has that depth, that's an incredible story. Like, I was telling Maddie this last night. It like kind of it came up randomly, but like I went to like Catholic schools my whole life, like raised going to church, all that sort of stuff. But I am very much like I identify as an atheist. And so just to hear your own experience, like loving something as much as you did, and it helped with your anxiety, it helped with your OCD, and it was it was so judged. That's such an intense experience for you. I can imagine like that must have felt so like it must have felt really torn. Like this
Mhm.
helps me, but everybody around me is saying that like this is not good.
Mhm. Yeah, I had come to a point where, and I don't like typically just throw around cuss words, but I really had come to a point where I didn't give a fuck what anyone thought. Where
Yeah.
I was so in a
Mhm.
place of like, I have to do I've been doing what's good for everybody else my whole life. Not because
Mhm.
anyone's making me, not because anyone's pressuring me, not because anyone's expecting it of me, but because that's what I expect of myself. That when I got to that point, I was like, I'm done. And when I talk about like the divorce, for example, like a lot of people, it was not a good situation. And a lot of people, there was kind of this response of like, I'm so sorry. And for me, that was really the final like nail in the coffin of like, that girl is dead. The girl who did everything for everyone else and neglected herself is dead. And there were a lot of people who like were not on board for the um you know kind of phoenix rising
Mhm.
reincarnation of Kasidy. Like there
Mhm.
were a lot of people who only were comfortable with that version of me.
Mhm.
um but I remember one of my best friend in the whole world, she's like my sister. She was here maybe a month or two after I had started Marina Bay Yoga, and she said, "This is my favorite version of you." And it was like, yeah, because you are here, like you're with me. You're not just here to get something. Like you're here
Mhm.
for for like the realness of life, right? Like that's what we want in friendships. That's what we want in the people that we spend time with. And to hear her say that, it was like, yeah, I'm like the most unhinged version of me right now, but this is your favorite. So I'm it, like, yeah, like that's exactly what is important. So,
Do you
yeah.
feel like you ended up losing lots of maybe family and friends who were, not supportive of that? Like, did they kind of eventually accept you, or are you still have like very, stuck sides there?
Yeah, so I think in the long run, it ended up being less about the yoga that people were maybe distancing themselves for. Like, I think the actual yoga part, people could like understand, like, oh, at least it's exercise, like it's exercise if nothing else. But because so much of my like deeper belief systems evolved around spirituality and religion, it it really has made people uncomfortable because
Hmm.
my views were so clear, and so even if they were um like very passionate, they were very clear for people to understand, like, okay, she's a Christian, she fits in this box, she believes this way. And as I started to speak up about things that I saw that were happening in the organization that I was a part of, as I started to speak up about, like, this is what I think about God, as I started to really have those conversations and have them publicly, because they're such a huge part of my yoga story,
Hmm.
I have had a lot of people like, wait, what do you believe? Are you okay? Kind of
Um,
attitude. And it's because like what I believe now doesn't fit in a box. And it makes people uncomfortable to consider this idea that we don't have it all figured out. And so I would say more of the relationship changes have come through the discomfort of my viewpoints don't fit in this box. I believe in this evolution of life and discovery, and God being bigger than we could ever fathom. And I'm more comfortable going than being like, and this is what happened, and this is exactly why it happened, and this is the meaning. I'll even jump into like the more spiritual community, because as I started teaching yoga, I get invited to these different things. And even within the spiritual community, there's like, and this happened for this reason, and this is the meaning behind this, even in the business coaching world. And you're not making sales because I'm gonna get handsy. You're not making
Yeah.
sales, your energy low, or because you're not handling your spiritual connections, or like this. It's, in my mind, it's all bullshit. We can put meaning to things as much as we want, or we can be okay in the discomfort of going, I'm not actually sure, I don't actually know, but I'm along for the ride. And that makes people
mm.
cringe. It's so
I
uncomfortable.
I agree with that because my really good friend, she was just here. Me and her have conversations about literally anything under the sun. Now, she is very, very religious, and every time she's here, we always end up talking about religion, which I'm totally fine with because she's passionate about it and I love her. And we were talking about last night, and we were talking about kind of like my thoughts on how I don't I kinda think I fall more in line with you, like, I more question things rather than just, like, think, "Yes, that is the answer." And for
Like
her,
blindly
it's
accept things.
yes, and for her, it's kinda like, "What do you mean you don't accept it or you don't believe it? There's the Bible and all this, knowledge that we have." And I'm like, "But is that, like, really, like, fact? Like, how do we really know? And we don't know the depths of the ocean. Like, how do we know
Mhm,
who created the unit, all these things." And I think she
mhm,
gets a little uncomfortable because I question it. And I think that's healthy
mhm,
to question things, but I don't know if other people would be okay with maybe, I don't know, associating themselves with me. But she is, because we're
mhm.
very good friends, and we don't let it define like we can or cannot be friends because I'm not religious. Like, we're very similar, but religion we do not align on. And that's fine. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah. One of the things that I found just in the process of like going through all of this is like the people who I maybe we like don't agree, they want to be heard just as much as I want to be heard. And
Hmm.
so for them, it's like, whatever the person believes, whatever we believe in. Sometimes it's not even religion focused. Sometimes it's like, I believe this to be true about my kid. I'm now in all of these like parenting situations, and it's like, this is fact about birth, and it's like, actually that's not fact about birth. There's a lot of ways that birth can happen. And anyways, there there are times when things feel so tender and close that it's like, no, the sky is blue. And so what I've found to be really
Mhm.
helpful is like, cool, the sky is blue for you.
Yeah.
The sky was orange for me last night. Sorry, my mom's calling. Let me just go ahead and silence us over here. That I don't know how that happened. I'm usually really good about that. But
It's
like
okay.
literally I have photos. The sky was orange last night. And
Mhm.
so it's like, for one of my really good friends, she's actually still part of the organization that I was a part of. And we have a really open, honest, like even sometimes heated conversations about it. But at the end of the day, like we respect each other's
Mhm.
opinion, and even the freedom to just like disagree. Like, how
Mhm.
fun to just be like, oh my gosh, we're different people. You see
Mhm.
blue, I see orange. Cool. Like, do you want to
Yeah.
have a snack because we both like cheese? Like, you know what I mean? Like, I think sometimes we
Yeah.
get so serious about
Mhm.
these things and so attached to our
Mhm.
truth, and there's a lot of freedom in being like, yeah, we can think different, and like how
Yeah.
beautiful. Because I don't know. I think about this, might be silly, but like I think about our freaking dogs. Like, not everybody wants a pit bull, but I want all the rescue pit bulls that exist. And like some people
Mhm.
want to have a cute chihuahua that bites people. And like to each his own. Like we can all be different and it can be okay. My parents have a chihuahua that bites everyone but me. It's fine.
Ours did that
I,
too, so it's fine.
Did you have a
I
chihuahua?
I had a Chorky. It was a Chihuahua Yorkshire Terrier. We definitely need to put a picture. He
I
was
want to see.
ugly
yeah,
as hell.
I'm
So
sure. I'm
ugly. He
sure.
looked he looked like the devil. He hated my dad so much. He would pee in
Oh
my
my
dad's
gosh.
shoes and only my dad's shoes.
Stop.
Yes.
What
But
what,
And
what was
it
his
was
name?
Scooby.
Was he even at the size of your dad's shoes? Like how? How?
Like 5 pounds maybe.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God. I love
Uh
that.
That's
I love
amazing.
that. That is it, but it's I like how you are talking a lot about having a difference of opinion or different beliefs and that sort of thing, and being okay with not 100% agreeing, or just even being okay holding space for other people. Because what I find a lot of the times is when I question things or speak up against things, people, some in my circle sometimes, or family or whatever, it's like an instant rejection, or oh, you'll change your mind, or oh, blah blah blah. And it's
Mhm.
like, well,
Mhm.
I'm trying to be better with, like, that's okay that you feel that way. And
Mhm.
because a lot of the times it's like full stop, like, I don't want to have this conversation. You're getting toxic. You're not respecting my boundary. But I'm trying to lean into a more, okay, you can think what you're going to think, and I'm going to think what I'm going to think. And we can try and move in a way that feels more flexible instead of rigid. And I think that's probably
Mm.
something I'm going to take away most from this conversation. Um, because
I
I'm
really love
sure,
that.
yeah. Yeah, I mean,
Sorry.
I would love to hear how you started to go into that. Like, obviously coming from,
Mhm.
a religious background, and you're questioning things, you're changing things. How was that journey for you to be okay and get to a place of, we can have these vulnerable conversations and we can disagree, but I still love you and I want to have a snack with you. Like, I loved that phrasing.
Well, I had a nervous breakdown first, so that was fun. No,
Yeah.
I think Brene Brown, she gave this, I think it might have been her like famous TED talk where she says her therapist, she called it a nervous breakdown. Her therapist called it a spiritual awakening. And I
Mhm.
loved that reframe because I had what some would call a nervous breakdown slash spiritual awakening. It was when I was in Malaysia. And I had kind of this crossroad of my anxiety and my depression were really meeting, rather than being the up and down that I had been used to. They were happening at the same time. And I was really terrified. Trigger warning, trigger warning. I was really terrified that I was going to take my own life. And so one of the things with obsessive compulsive disorder is intrusive thoughts. And so I had had these intrusive thoughts for years at this point about like suicidal ideation, but they had never happened at the same time as my depression. So it was always like, okay, this is something that, okay, that's an intrusive thought. I'm scared of it. Where this particular evening, it was an intrusive thought that I actually wanted to act on, which had never happened before. I get chills. Sweet little baby Kasidy. She was just trying so hard to survive. And that's really what I've come to see is that the stress that I was under was more than what my nervous system could handle. That's a really popular and common thing people are talking about now. Everybody's talking about the nervous system. No one was talking about this at the time that this was all unfolding for me. This was like in the church, like people didn't have depression, people didn't go on medicine. Like the fact that I was even talking about OCD, that I had been on medicine, that I was going to therapy 3 times a week, like all of these things were kind of a shock to the culture that I was a part of in the first place. And then this evening happened. And so basically the next day I told my team, hey, I really need help. I need more help than what I can give myself. This is what's going on. The best thing that I ever could have done. And I just want to like pause for anyone who's listening and who's um, facing this place, this kind of crossroad. um, I know it can be scary, but it's so worth it to ask for help and to ask for help from someone that is unafraid of helping you get the help, because that can be a big thing. So luckily I was surrounded by really amazing people. I went to a hospital in Thailand. Would love to go back and actually see Thailand. Just went straight to the hospital on that trip. And I spent 5 days in a hospital where really they taught us a bunch of mindfulness tools. They taught us how to use art as therapy. We did yoga as therapy. There was some talk therapy, but it was a lot more hands-on, a lot more nervous system regulation. Again, did not have language for that at the time. And so for me, the belief system, it really, when I started to poke holes in what I had not only learned, but was not only teaching others, but was teaching others how to teach others, right? Like I'm layers deep in this belief system. I'm real deep in it. It was really a crashing of my world. It was a crashing of like, I don't know who I am. I don't know who I am without this understanding of God. And so by going through that, right, it didn't happen in those 5 days. It would be years. It would be, ending a divorce to someone who was very deep in those belief systems. It would be evolving in my career. It'd be new relationships, new friendships. Through all of that, the biggest thing I learned was compassion. And the biggest thing I learned was like, if I can experience this, and I feel like I'm a pretty strong person. Like if I can experience this and I can go through this and nobody knows what's going on in my brain, and it looks like everything's fine on the outside, what is the next person experiencing? And so when we talk about like friends and how to get to that place where we completely disagree but we can still eat cheese together, I have no idea what you're experiencing. I have no idea what you're experiencing, Ali, Maddy. I have no idea what's really going on, right? And so the only thing I can do is show up with the compassion that I was willing to give little 26-year-old Kasidy, who was like, I just need help. Now, I don't think everybody's walking around with that level of stress or intensity or anxiety or whatever. But if I always show up in a way that is like compassionate and warm, then like we can always eat cheese even if we disagree. And and I can't control their behavior. And so if somebody is, you mentioned boundaries. I'm reading a book right now about parenting that is I can't remember her name. She's a psychologist. She's incredible. And she talks about like emotion behind the behavior. One of the things she talks about when it comes to boundaries is like, when we talk about boundaries, so often we talk about what other people are doing, but actually our boundaries are ours. And so I really had to start focusing on like not anyone else's behavior, but what am I going to do in this situation? What is my response? And so sometimes that meant I needed to leave conversations, or I needed to, back away from an interaction without expecting anything from them. And that freedom to not expect anything from them, anything from their behavior, but to just do what I needed to do brought so much healing. And it restored a lot of relationships.
I think
That's really powerful.
that's so true because I think we just naturally expect a lot out of people. And I feel like when we do that, we are kind of like setting ourselves up for failure and for being like let down,
Mhm.
because we can't expect a lot of people to be the friend that like maybe we are, like, oh, I do all these things for them, but they do nothing for me in return. And I feel like I held that for a long time and I was constantly getting let down by a significant other, if a family member,
Mhm.
a friend, and kind of letting go of that just kind of like lets go of a lot of like, disappointment.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing with boundaries is that uh, there and this happens with things, but like I see this trend of like wanting to talk about boundaries and over communicate boundaries and make sure everyone knows the boundaries rather than just having the boundary. And the
Mhm.
freedom and the joy that just comes from just having the boundary and not needing to exert your will on anyone else, exert my will on anyone else, but just, I'm going to just enjoy my boundaries. Like, that's just what I'm going to do. I don't have to explain it to anyone. That's
Mhm.
when the real joy of boundaries comes to me, is like I want to wear black. It doesn't really matter if anyone else likes when I wear black. I don't even have to explain why I'm wearing black. I remember people when I started wearing black all the time, people are like asking me about it. I'm like, because I want to. And we can be okay with that. I have this boundary
Uh-huh.
because I want to. And then we
Yeah.
enjoy the boundary rather than spinning our wheels trying to explain and make sure they understand and make sure they follow our boundaries. They don't have to follow our boundaries. They can hate that I wear black. They can hate that this is what I want to look like, but I'm going to do it because this is what I want. And then we can just like go on our merry way. But I think we end up giving so much energy to like trying to help them understand or get them on the same page. And it's like, nah, we
Hmm.
can just let it go.
I had a
Yeah,
follow-up
yeah.
question. Oh, go ahead, Allie.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think it's part of that. I think it's really exhausting to have such a high expectation of how somebody else is going to understand
Mhm.
and accept your boundaries, right? Because,
Mhm.
and this is something I talk with my therapist on like all the time, because like Allie is having a hard time working through that one. But there was a moment where I was speaking with him and I said, this person keeps asking me the same thing over and over and over and over again. And I keep giving the same advice. And I would like to say, I don't want to give you advice. I'm no longer open to that because you come back to me with the same exact problem. But that would never be a conversation that would work, that would be accepted. So instead, what a better boundary for me is just accept that they're not going to take the advice and to be surprised if they do, but accept that they're not. And with
Mm.
boundaries, I think, it is so individual for everybody, but just like being focused on you, like you said, like I'm
Mhm.
happy, I'm going to do what's good for me, takes the pressure off of the whole situation. We don't have to like think so intently on what are they perceiving, how are they going to respect my
Mhm.
boundary, are they going to respect my boundary, all these sorts of things, because it is really exhausting. And that's a hard thing that people don't like to talk about, like a lot of this stuff, like with our mental health and regulating our nervous system and boundaries, like it's always put in a way that like just state your boundary and it will be accepted, when in reality, like, no. But if I accept it, like you were saying, that's a major way that I can feel secure, and I can take the pressure
Mhm.
off of the situations that I'm, you know, putting the expectations on other people. So it's hard work. And I love the way that you explain it and how like hearing about your journey, I think it's incredible.
Thank you. That's really sweet. I have a quick question. Do you guys edit?
Yes.
Okay. Can I poke a little, Allie?
Sure.
And y'all can edit this out if it doesn't fit. What would happen if you did tell the person, I'm not available for this conversation anymore?
Um, so there are several people in my life that I feel it would be catastrophic. And it's not because of how I'm phrasing it, but it's because of where they're at. And
Totally.
for lack of better words, it would be like a toddler freak out. Like, why are you saying that? You're supposed to be X, Y, and Z. And so to protect my peace, because that's a lot, I fall back to expecting that they won't take the advice and being okay with that versus I don't know, saying what I would like to say.
Okay, I love this. I think it's such a beautiful example of this whole journey is not black and white
Mm.
because there's so many great teachers and experts and people saying like this is what you have to do and this is the hard line you have to draw and this is well why don't you just do it and you know be brave or I don't know like bullshit stuff that sometimes is true but sometimes is not true and there's lots of gray in between but to have the like and I just want to like point this out and like magnify it because I think it's being missed a lot is like to have the emotional intelligence to go, this is the big picture. Sure, I could be like just power through and say this thing and put my, you know, my rod in the sand. I don't know what the line in the sand, whatever the term is. But I actually am thinking about the big picture. And for me, this is actually more peaceful to be able to just actually let go of that expectation that things would change. And that's the road that feels more peaceful than being like, and this is what has to happen. I love that. I love that, like, that self awareness and the intelligence to go. And like, that could change. You could be like, okay, I'm ready to say it now, or like, now it needs to be done. Like, that could evolve but the emotional intelligence, the self-awareness to be like, hey, it's not a black and white answer, especially when it comes to boundaries and communication. Like we're all so dynamic and what could be true today could change tomorrow. And I don't know, there's just so much more freedom then I think when it comes to, I've had this thought in my mind a lot recently of like surviving self help. Like if I ever make a podcast, I think that would be the name of it. Like there's so much like self help advice that is like very black and white. And then we have all of these like high achievers and these people, like many of us are like very driven by accomplishing and doing it right that are like trying to meet these unrealistic, not even standards, but ideas that someone thought were a good idea that aren't even necessarily right or true for us. And so I love the freedom that you're talking about to just like, no, this is what's right for me. Anyways,
Yeah.
just you're awesome and I wanted to say it. I don't know if y'all need to cut that out, but I didn't want to miss the
Honestly,
opportunity.
No, I would love to keep that in.
I was thinking about that too. I'm like, what would happen if she did just say that?
Yeah, and that's the where I think going to therapy and having the tough conversations it's difficult, but it is the best thing I could have ever done. Like I remember I had gone to therapy multiple times before, and I was a big fat liar. I lied my way through those sessions because
Yes,
I was not like I wasn't in a place. It was like
I love
other
that.
other people in my life being like, you need to go to therapy. You need to go to therapy, which, okay,
Mhm.
I'm glad, like, maybe somebody was trying to look out. But when I decided to go on my own, I remember it was like December 2019. I had just had like 4 major panic attacks. I was stuck in like a panic cycle. I had these god awful like blue acrylic nails because I was trying to make myself feel better. And I was like, all right, I'll just like order these on Amazon because I can't leave the house. Like I'm having so much trouble. I like go online, I like find a therapist, and I'm like, I've always been to like a women therapist. I'm going to go to a guy. I'm going to like see if this changes things. And I was ready in that moment and I was willing to try something different than I ever have. And we've had so many amazing conversations about how can I stand up for myself or how can I set boundaries? And I'm like, dude, look, like I'm not going to listen to advice of like, just say it because it's not going to work for the situation. And he's like, no, I totally agree. If you say these certain things, like it's not going to have a beneficial reaction. Like it's going to make you feel worse. Your anxiety is going to go through the roof. So like, here's what, let's try this. And he
Mhm.
helped me to kind of like get out of the box of like what you said, surviving self-care. I love that. You need to like hop on that because how many times do we read like self-care
Mhm.
advice and it's like, oh my God, this is kind of like toxic positivity and it's actually not working for my life.
Yeah.
And it was just, yeah, like I love that phrasing. Like it's going to stick with me because how many times have we like read something we're like, oh, that actually kind of made me feel like shit. And like,
Mhm.
am
Yes.
I the problem? Like, is it me?
No, you're not. But
Did you
maybe,
tell
maybe
your
we're all the problem.
a little bit, yes. Did you, Allie, tell your current therapist like I went to therapy before, but I lied all the
Oh
time?
yeah.
Yeah, what did he
Oh yeah.
say?
Um, so this would have been like 4 years ago. And so I was diagnosed with agoraphobia and before the pandemic, like I would go in office and then when we switched online, but I was like, I almost didn't show up and I was just gonna like email you and lie and whatever. And he's like, well, that's okay. And I was like, okay. And he's like, I would expect that. And I was like, well, why? And he goes, because on your intake form, you were very honest and you said you lied all the time to therapists. And I was like, I totally did. And he goes, but that is not something that I'm going to fault you on or something that I'm going to assume you're lying to me because if you're not ready and if it didn't feel like the right fit, like it's a really vulnerable thing that we're dealing with. And I never had a way to describe my anxiety, but I'm just like afraid of everything. Like I'm in a much better place now with my agoraphobia, but like it is a very debilitating thing. So I think my body was trying to protect me and just lie because it's safer than admitting what's real when you don't fully trust the person. My therapist now, he's my best friend. Like we are talking about it all. And I think that just goes to show like that you have to really be ready. Like you're going to have kind of like this awakening when you're ready to work on the hard shit. I mean, kind of like yourself, you found yoga to be this tool that like oops, like that really pulled you to be like, "Oh my gosh, like this is an awakening." Like I had a nervous breakdown or a spiritual awakening. I think we all have that in some capacity.
Hmm. Yeah, and I really think that there is a place to, how would I like, I love what you're saying about, I'm trying to find the right words, which is why I'm looking all over the place and closing my eyes. I'm it's like the body remembers, right? The
Mm,
body knows. And so sometimes I do hear maybe things swing to the side of like intuition. Like I don't always love when the topic of intuition and the way intuition is talked about, especially for those of us with anxiety. um, the gut is the seat of emotion. That's also where we experience our intuition, and so it can feel very jumbled. It can feel like spaghetti. And so i I personally am not always inclined to be attracted to like, even though I literally teach intuitive yoga and I like this is just what I call it, but like a lot of being like steered by intuition for someone with anxiety, at least for myself, that's not always helpful to hear that kind of advice, right?
yeah.
I don't know if anyone else experiences that, but um why was I gonna, oh, but I do, the body keeps score, the body knows. And so I really believe in the like trusting of our process, right? Like even in the like lying, and I crack up about that because I'm like so frugal. The idea of paying someone and then lying to them is just so funny to me. I love that you did that. Like I literally, like I think that is so fantastic. um but like even like in the process, in the journey, I just so trust the process that like I believe for you that that was even part of the journey. Like your body knew. Um, and like it's not, I don't know, like to your therapist point, like I agree, it's like it's not bad, like it's actually like it's just what you needed at that time. And like
Yeah.
now you're in a place where your system is relaxed enough to not need to self-protect, and so you can, like, what if it's just all good and there's no judgment about it? Like how beautiful, how freeing. And I actually think that the mental health challenges that we face, that so much of the world is facing, is a response to a disconnection with ourselves, as a response to self judgment, as a response to self neglect,
Hmm.
like physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. There's like, it's like, I don't know, I just see it as this like separating from ourselves. And the more and more we reintegrate with ourselves, we reconnect with ourselves, it's almost like these things start to evaporate and they become less heavy in us. And it's not like a one size fits all in my experience. It's not like here's this perfect formula, but it's really like surrendering to the journey of becoming and allowing and reconnection. And those are my ethereal thoughts of the day.
It's funny you bring that up about kind of like we don't have the connection to ourselves, and a lot of the things that are happening are from like, self-hatred and what is it? Um,
Neglect, loathing,
neglect. Yeah,
judgment.
judgment, that's the word. And
Mm,
last night my friend was asking me like what are some benefits like that you've seen since starting your own business? And I was like,
mm,
honestly, like I wish for women specifically, I feel like I have learned more about myself, and
Mm.
like our marriage has improved, not like it was on the rocks or anything, but like just different things like communication, like
mm.
I don't think I would have experienced that in a better understanding of myself, and less like self-hatred and those type of things if I didn't become an entrepreneur and run my own business.
Wow.
And I think about how many people, work a regular job, and they come home, they're mentally exhausted, and like they're never going to experience or be pushed in that way to better understand themselves. So they're going to
Mhm,
continue to live that with the kind of like the haze over them. And I feel
Mm.
like entrepreneurship has
mhm.
lifted that haze off. And I've just like found this new sense of self, and I'm like, wow, like I did not expect that happening.
That's so cool. Like, you almost have to face the stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think
Mhm.
normal life does that for you. I think it's just like kind of weirdly unique when it comes to being an entrepreneur, and also maybe just being a woman, because like I don't know a lot of men that are this introspective.
I think a lot of the times they don't have to be, right? Like we are forced to in some ways, and then also just like in business, if you are going to survive and you're going to make a living and you're envisioning yourself 40 years from where you are today, you have to look at the scary, ugly, crazy things. Like you have to go beyond the haze, and it's uncomfortable. And so I can understand why people decide to let go of their business because it's uncomfortable, it's scary, there's judgment,
Mhm,
you're comparing yourself,
Mm.
but it also, you have the opportunity to grow and see yourself in this place of like, wow,
mhm,
if I was looking back at like 20-year-old Ali when she had the idea of starting her business, I don't know who she is. Like she is not who I am today. And that's a
mhm.
beautiful thing. And has it always been easy and great? No. But like we also get that we get to have that experience. And man, I love like lifting the haze. Like it is that
Mhm.
is such a beautiful way to look at it. Like when we are so stressed and we're like, should I just like give up? It's like, okay, but we've lifted the haze. Like we've done a lot of the hard work.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Yeah. And like business owners deciding. So to me, when I started, I said, if I decide to stop doing this at any point, it's not going to be giving up. And
Oh, I
so
love
I think
that.
there's also a freedom, like it's not more noble, it's not more righteous, it's not more spiritual, it's not being a better person in any kind of way to run a business. You know, the the seasons change, and it's so funny. So my parents are business owners. They started their business, I was probably, I don't know, 6 or 7, around that age. And when they started their company, people, they weren't surrounded by people who were entrepreneurs or business owners, and people didn't really know what category to put them in. And so a lot of people were like, is this an MLM? And no shade to MLMs, but that wasn't what it, that wasn't their business. And so they there was a lot of like, what is this? It was weird. Now it's like everybody has a business. And if you don't have at least a side hustle, like what are you doing? Or, there's
Yeah.
this the world has changed, and now it's really cool to own a business, and now it's really cool to be, and it's like there's not a there's not a right or wrong. And so like if someone decides like I'm going to do something different, how beautiful to go, yeah. And I don't think that has to limit the personal growth that can happen.
Mhm.
I there's this girl who I think she's in marketing for Amazon's like indie book organization, and I can't remember her name, but she's on social media. She's very popular. And she shared the other day about how she left her she transitioned from owning her own company to going to work for someone, and all the things she loves about it and all the ways she's grown since. And it's like the less pressure, the less expectation we can put on ourselves of like, this is the right way, or this is the only way, or this is the best way, the more freedom we have to stay present with ourselves to choose what's right and best for us, rather than just trying to like do all the things for everyone else. Now, in
Mhm.
the same breath, I say, like, if you have a dream, keep going. Like, don't give up because it's
Yes.
hard. Because like most things that are worth having are really hard. Like they just are. Like it's, or everyone would just have them, right? And
Mhm.
so, anyways, I don't know. I just I'm on a lot of soapboxes today, but that's what we do
No.
on podcasts, right? Like that
You're
we share our opinions.
yes. You're totally
That's
allowed to
what we
have
do
that.
here. Yeah.
Yes. I do have some questions because I this took a turn in a good way. Like I love what we've been talking about, and we don't want to take like all of your time because me and Allie could talk for hours. But I do want to ask you, thinking back to when you first started Marina Bay Yoga, and then compared
Mhm,
to now, what were your fears in the beginning starting a business compared to what they are
mhm.
today?
That's a good question. Okay, my fears in the beginning, I had zero fears.
Wow.
It literally took off so quickly. The moment I knew like I'm going to do this full time, it was clear as day. My husband and I weren't engaged yet, so it wasn't even like like a it wasn't even a conversation of like kind of, we don't really ask permission. We're more like, hey, this is what I'm gonna do. And then if we have deeper questions about it, we go deeper. But we're very independent people. But this was even before we were like, planning to be united for life. And so it was very much like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, okay, cool. Of course you are. Like, go for it. So because it was all happening very clearly and very kind of effortlessly, if you will, I worked my ass off. It wasn't like I was snoozing, like I was working really hard. But there weren't a ton of fears in the beginning.
Mhm.
The fears now are things like I'm gonna have a baby, right? Like
Mhm.
let me go like this season. I'll say this, the fears of this season, right? Like, okay, I'm going to have a baby. What does that mean for the business? Okay, now I'm sick for 4 months. I'm sick in bed and can hardly stay awake. Who's going to make sure my clients are taken care of? Like the fear of not meeting my own expectations. That's the fear. That's the fear
Mhm.
now, is the ideals I have, the expectations I have, the desire for um, just extraordinary experiences for my clients. Can I live up to that in the in the changes in the changes
Mhm.
of my own body? And for them, what I've seen reflected back is that like, yeah, we're still good. We're still on brand. We're still on client experience in the standard that I desire. And I would say my kind of antidote to that fear is just being very honest with myself about like what can I deliver, what can I actually do. So I had a big launch for a year of yoga, and it's a whole year of doing yoga with me inside the virtual yoga studio. Actually, it ends today. This is probably not going to come out today, I'm assuming, and so that's
Mhm.
okay. But this launch was designed because I knew that I could exceed the expectations of what I wanted to deliver while supporting myself and my own capacity, right? And so I've had to get very creative, like, okay, it's a new season, new things.
Mm.
So,
I love that. I love looking at it like this is this season's concerns and fears, because it's not temporary, and it's not something you're gonna, this fear is not going to be carried lifelong. So I feel like sometimes, as a business owner who has a lot of anxiety, I am constantly thinking about long term, and I'm constantly thinking about, oh, if I don't do this,
mhm,
we're not going to be successful. And there's a ton of pressure. And so over
mhm,
the course of 2023, it was a lot of like, okay, we need to take the pressure off, because it's not helping.
mhm.
It's not making you this superstar. Like it's not
Yeah.
benefiting us. So I
Mhm.
love phrasing it, and I'm going to steal that. Like when I'm in that stressful moment, I'm going to focus
Please.
on like, well, it's this season and it's not
Mhm,
forever. And how can I support myself in a way that I can also serve my clients where I want to serve them? Because, as business
mhm.
owners, if we're not taking care of this inside, outside, the whole thing, then we're not going to be able to be at the place of service where we want to be. And then we're going to judge ourselves and go through the whole cycle of not great things, right? Like it gets it gets
Yeah.
it gets intense.
And I also think like I'm not scared of the fear. And
Mhm.
so there was a big part of my life where it was like I can't be afraid. I have to be happy. I have to have it all together. I can't be afraid because of all of these reasons. And now I'm like, "Oh yeah, of course I'm scared. This is terrifying." And I just feel it. And I just like, "All
Mhm.
right, this is what fear feels like." And I just soak it up and I feel it with every ounce of my body. And then I see what happens after that because I trust that I can handle fear. And I, even as I'm sharing this, I'm like, oh my gosh, I didn't realize this till this moment. But the concerns and the changes in the season have actually created more creativity for where I'm going and where like what's even more accessible to my students. And so it's like, oh, like maybe fear, what's that kid song? It's like you can't walk around it, you can't walk over it, you can't walk under
Oh
it, you
yeah,
have to walk
yeah.
through it. What is that? I don't know.
I don't
But
know,
it's
but
like
I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's perfect.
I
we
have
have
no
to walk
idea.
through it. We have to
It's
walk
like you
through
can't go over it, you can't
it.
walk under it.
And it's like, actually, like, what if the fear isn't bad, right? Like, we put fear in the bad category. Anyways, yeah, that's my answer.
No, no, I like that. I
I've,
think that's helpful. And you know, and I bring that up because my friend I was talking about, she's been toggling with the idea of starting a business. And I'm like, do it, because I know she'll be
do
so
it.
good. And she's so passionate about what she wants to do it around. And she was
Mhm.
asking me all these questions. I'm like, oh, I need to ask Cassie that, because I'm also intrigued, because I think like our fears change over time. And, for a lot of business owners like us that are selling our business and um selling it and marketing it predominantly online. There's a lot of different fears, I think, that maybe a barber shop would have, or like my husband, for example,
Mhm.
like he's not on social media and he owns a dry cleaners, it's different.
Mm.
And one of those for me fears was like the vulnerability side, because
Mhm.
we basically pour our heart out and on our freaking sleeve, on our forehead, on, social media. And that's how we connect with people. And that's how we sell our brand. And that's been a
Yeah.
fear of mine that I've worked through and slowly getting more comfortable with. And I know you're so open, and I very much appreciate that, even in this conversation, and what you choose to share online. And I think Allie too. I mean, I remember being just, acquaintances with Allie before she started talking about agoraphobia. It was kind of like one day
Mm,
you posted about it and I was like, whoa, like, and you
mm.
claimed like I have agoraphobia. And I'm like, that is so cool. Like how many other people probably have agoraphobia and are embarrassed. And now she's
Yeah.
talking about it.
Yeah, it's such as you said, other business owners, they can not not hide from whatever their biggest insecurities are, right? But that's not what always makes the connection. Like if I'm gonna go to a laundromat, I'm gonna go not because of a really intimate, intense story, but I'm gonna be like, is it clean? Is it, does it work well?
Yeah.
Whatever.
Do they have
So
snacks?
yeah, do they have snacks? What are the vibes? But I think as business owners, this is where we get to we get to express ourselves in a way, because I was always mortified talking about agoraphobia, because it's also a word that has, at least in my experience, very few associations. And same with OCD. My sister has pretty severe OCD. And so when people hear these terms, they think maybe one thing. And I don't want to be looked at in one light. And so I started by making jokes about it. I'm like, I have agoraphobia, but not like Sheila from Shameless. Um, and then I started to get vulnerable because I was like, I'm not embarrassed in my real life. I will talk about my anxiety, I'm open with it. But online, it's like, what if somebody sends it to somebody else and they laugh at me, or they're like, why the fuck is she talking about this? This is embarrassing. But I got over that. And it opened the door to so many other conversations. And like Maddy says, and like what you do, like we all share things that are really vulnerable, but it's actually really powerful for us because we're choosing to do that. And it's not somebody telling our story, which, so whenever I get scared of being vulnerable, I think about it as like, I'm actually really powerful because I'm telling my story. And if I want to delete it later, if I feel like maybe not today, I don't need to share the story, then I don't. And that feels a good way for me to have a relationship with the fear of it or with the intensity of it. It's like, but this is my story and I get to dictate, which is
Mhm.
is kind of a cool thing.
That's really cool. I had I love that. I My experience around like sharing vulnerably is actually different from fear. It's a feeling of
Mm,
like, this is gonna I hope I don't offend anyone. I actually really hope I don't offend anyone by this. But like it's almost like a I don't want to cheapen it. Like to me,
mm,
I know that I want to share it. Like there's not fear around it. I know I want to share. But there's like a I don't want to cheapen it. I've been to hell and back. Like like this is deep
Mm.
stuff, y'all.
yeah.
And
Yep.
I was wrestling with this one day, and I don't know why, but this is just how I like think. I look around and I see all of these lights. And who invented the light? I keep saying Thomas Jefferson, but that was the president. Who invented the light? Or
Edison.
electricity?
Edison.
Thank you. I've been saying Thomas Jefferson when I've been telling people about this. This is the first time I'm saying it publicly, so I want to make sure I get it right. Edison. I look around and I see all these lights in my house. And I think about how he did all kinds of, who knows how long. Like maybe we have recorded how many tries and how long it took him and how many people were actually helping him. And we only know a portion of the story. But I'm looking at all of this electricity running through my house and like, okay, he probably went through hell and back to get me these lights that I literally don't think twice about.
Mm,
Mhm.
And I never thank him. I never send like my gratitude about this. Now I do. But like, what if it's enough that like I just am here to give, and like I don't, it doesn't cheapen it by me giving freely. It actually like, yeah, maybe one day it becomes commonplace for everyone to know that mental health can be really addressed by self-love. And yeah, maybe I had to go to hell and back to find that out, but maybe one day it's as normal as the lights are in my house, and that gives me chills. That to me is like, okay, it's worth it. Like, and it doesn't cheapen it. It doesn't cheapen what he did. going through his whole journey of bringing us light and electricity and whatnot. But like, it's okay that it's commonplace now. Like, that's actually okay. And I don't know if that like makes sense in anyone else's brain but mine. But it was really freeing to be like, okay, like, yeah, maybe it becomes that commonplace and it doesn't feel that like same kind of intensity, but like that's actually maybe good. So
Yeah, I feel like more people, I mean, it's becoming more commonplace to talk about mental health struggles and what you're going through. And I kind of get that too, because like I wasn't able to walk when I was, how old was I, 20? Got so sick I couldn't walk. Like I literally, like the couch I'm sitting on, I wouldn't be able to get off right now, like stand up on my own. And I think that can be hard for people to grasp that idea. And in your 20s, you can't walk. And sometimes when I'm saying that and saying why I'm so passionate about things I'm passionate about and building strength and taking care of your body, because I had like a body of like a 90-year-old, at 20.
yeah.
Sometimes I think the gravity of that does not hit with people because they
Mm.
can't imagine it. They can't fully feel what I felt. And that kind of can get annoying sometimes because I'm like, you have a
Mhm.
capable body. Like you could lift weights and you could be
Mhm.
stronger and you're choosing not to. Like I didn't have a choice. Like I was
Mhm.
literally handicapped. And it's kind of like you're just throwing the potential, the ability to stay independent away, like maybe out of laziness or maybe out of insert whatever excuse. And sometimes I can like fall down that rabbit hole when it comes to why I can't understand people won't like take care of their body now, because I know what it feels like to just be
Mm,
totally like can't do anything. I don't know how I got on this tangent, but that's how I feel about it sometimes.
mm.
Yeah, that's so real.
It's
Mhm.
I I can I think I can relate to that in sometimes because I try my very best to not compare my own mental health problems to others, right? But I'll be on TikTok and sometimes, girl, I am having the FOMO. I'm like, I would love to be the 26-year-old that wants to go to a concert or go
Mm.
travel or whatever it may be. And then I'll see people like doing a get ready with me. Oh, I'm having such bad anxiety, but like we're going to the club, we're doing all these things. And part of me can't help but feel like I feel jealous or envious, or I get these feelings that feel intensive, like why why does your anxiety hit you, but you can still go do the things that you want to do?
Mhm.
And I try not to compare because again, we never know what somebody is truly battling in their head, but there's a feeling of, do you understand how intense my story is? And that doesn't make their story less intense, but I think there's a feeling like kind of what Maddie was saying about her health situation. We sometimes feel so unseen because maybe we don't know enough people, or we don't have that circle of people that like have truly experienced a lot of the same things that we have. Because I have friends that have
Mhm.
anxiety, but I'll be like slowly sitting there like on a chairlift one time going skiing having a panic attack, and I told Jay, my fiance, I told him, I was like, I am having a panic attack, this is like really bad. And my friend sitting next to me, she's like, oh, I didn't know you were having one. And I'm like, yeah, because my life is like, sometimes I'm having them quietly because that's where my anxiety is. And so I think that's a feeling, and maybe we'll work through that. But I think it's also okay to sometimes just like sit with that feeling and be like, why am I feeling this? Why is it hitting me like that? But I hear
Mhm.
you and I see you.
We could really fall down the rabbit hole of anxiety within this
Uh,
podcast
I
episode.
know. I know. We're mental health queens.
I know. I really need to start plugging in my laptop before we podcast because I think between the lights I have on and the laptop itself, it just sucks the battery life out of it every time.
My phone hit like max recording capacity within like 2 minutes of us starting. So I didn't get any of this like deep, juicy stuff So I'm so excited to listen back and to hear like what all we have talked about and to get to share it because this has
Yeah.
been really, really fun, you guys. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah,
Well,
it was really good.
yes, tell us where we can find you. Anything new coming out in your business, give us all the juicy details.
Yeah, so you can find me pretty much everywhere online. My name is Kasidy K. What is my name online? I'm married, but not name changed, but kind of name changed. Kasidy Kersey Howie. Specifically, I hang out a lot on Instagram. I'm 34, so that's where we hang out. 34. It's I am KASIDY KAY. And what I have right now that's happening that I'm really excited about, and this is going to be available for the foreseeable future, is the Self Love School, and it's a guide to help you really just connect with yourself and to deepen your own self-love. I truly believe so much can happen from that place of self-acceptance. And so it's a free guide. It's available on all of my platforms. You'll see it in the link. And it's coming out at the end of January. So I don't know when this podcast is coming out, but if you get in on the list before then, you'll just be the first to get it. Otherwise, you can grab it anytime after that. It is a self love meditation, a self love yoga practice, a what else? A self love scavenger hunt. And then my favorite piece of it was a self love in action teaching slash training that I did that the virtual yoga studio, those in the membership went crazy over. I still get messages about this. And so I decided I wanted to make it more accessible to people who weren't yet in my membership. And so it's a great place to just start your journey of self-love or to continue it. If you're like, I've been doing this a while and I just want a new voice, a new resource, it's going to be really fun. And then I have a virtual yoga studio that everyone is welcome to, and it's a blast in there.
Awesome. Well, guys, you can find Cassidy on the gram. Get her self, I'm gonna butcher this, self-love, right? Self-love guide. And I'm sure we're gonna have to do a follow-up because like I had a bunch of other questions and the conversation was great. So I'm sure Allie can agree. We both really enjoyed having you on here.
Thank you guys. I would love to come back anytime. We can chat about business next time. I feel like that's where we were scratching the surface of next, and I would love to.
Yes.
Thank you for having
Awesome.
me on. You guys are incredible. I love what you're doing.
Oh, thank
Thank you.
you.
All
All
right.
right, we'll
Bye,
talk to you
guys.
later. Bye. Me and Allie like started recapping what we just talked about. I'm like, we didn't even hit record. Anyway, that was such a fun conversation.
That was really good. And with us, we could always have more time. And I think that's honestly the beauty of the conversations that we have because we're left wanting more. And then
Mhm.
that just means we have another chance to talk with like the guests that we do have come on. That was really good. I was getting chills. I was feeling like, whoa, this is low key the one of the best conversations that we could have had for a guest because we mentioned earlier in the episode like I'm in the middle of a move. I
I'm
needed
a
to sit and
move.
be
Sorry.
move. I needed to sit and be still for a minute and just like listen and take her energy in. That was fantastic.
Did I lie when I told you she has the best energy?
No lies. No
Like it's
lies.
so calming. Like she'd be
Yeah.
my
It's
mom. Like
beautiful.
I know. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Truly. And yeah, we're definitely gonna have her on again because so many more questions. And I was just open to like wherever the conversation went. And I just loved like those were interesting topics. They truly
Mm.
were.
And it's so interesting hearing her experience when it comes to her religion and some of the topics that she was bringing up as like how she came into yoga and how
Mhm.
that helped heal some of the physical things that she was going through, but then also like honestly unlocked this version of her, which
Yeah.
is so crazy. Like I always think, like the string theory, like people say like
Yeah.
in the world, like your
Huh?
soulmate is out there and the universe will like bring y'all together when it's the
Yeah.
time. Similarly, I think about like one action can kind of positively change the rest of your life and you don't know
Yeah.
it in the moment, right? Like you have no idea like, oh, I could start going to CrossFit, right? And then you met your future husband there. Like you had no fucking idea, but like these small things
Mhm.
can change our life. So for her, just doing yoga and trying it and then being like, holy fuck, like this is my life now. Like this is the new me. I am
Yeah.
reborn. Like,
I
I thought that was so cool.
I didn't even know that about her whole story. Like I knew
Yeah.
I remember when I talked to her the first time, she was doing like ministry work or something like that. What do you call them? Like when you send people to another state, country, and they
Like a
like teach
mission.
a missionary? Is that what it is?
Yeah, I thought Mormons only did that. I have no idea.
No, I know my family in Mexico, they're Christian and they have missionaries that go
Oh,
leave their
okay.
church to go help, spread Jesus or however that works. Spread Jesus. You could tell we're very religious here. But anyway, I remember
Dead.
I know. I remember she was talking about that, but I just didn't realize like not that she necessarily left religion completely, but I didn't understand like her metamorphosis. So that
Where
was
she
really cool.
started.
Yes,
Yeah.
and like how
Yeah.
taboo I didn't know it was taboo for a lot of
I
Christians to
did
practice
not
yoga.
know that. I
Yeah.
was like, our faces, I'm sure you can see,
I
we were
know it was like
like shooketh. But
Yeah.
I mean, I like, I can see also like where like strength comes in that, like of her being like kind of rebellious in a way of being like, this is actually
Mm.
something that helps me and I feel so called for. And it doesn't fit within your mold, but it fits within what I want to
Mhm.
do. Like that's like,
Mhm.
and I definitely want to talk about this. I don't know if like an episode will come out where we talk about it before, but like I have such a weird relationship with the idea of religion because
Mhm.
of like
Same.
the school that I went to and just certain beliefs and conversations out there and just some shit that I'm like, I can't like I can't either get behind or I can't fathom. So my brain just goes, doesn't
Yeah.
exist. Like, like I don't know. But I think hearing
Yeah.
her perspective coming from, it sounds like a pretty strong Christian
Yeah.
background to
Yeah.
having her own evolution. Like that's
Mhm.
powerful because I don't know people like that. Like I see that shit on like
Mm-mm.
some TLC shows, but like I don't actually know people that
Yeah.
like break out of their that sort of mold and like man, that's
Well,
powerful.
we do know someone mutually, Cheyenne Dover. She's
Oh,
a
yes. Yeah,
coach.
you're right. Yeah,
She
you're
she was
right.
in the Mormon church. I
Yeah.
believe this is this that public knowledge?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, okay. She doesn't talk it about a ton on her socials because a lot of her family and friends are still Mormon. But she's talked about it publicly. I'm like, are we like outing her?
No, no. And she
No.
I specifically remember hearing everything because she went on Justine's podcast, um, and Villain Era and talked about a lot of it. And at that time, it sounds like stupid, but I was just starting, or it was like the second season of like Real Housewives of Salt Lake City. And
Oh,
some of her experiences, like the women were talking about in on the show. And I was like, oh my God, like
wow.
it's yeah, intense. So I guess I know two people now, but otherwise,
Yes.
I don't
Yeah.
know. It's such a what a strong ass, like powerful woman thing to just like
Mhm.
go against what and not in like a negative way, but like find your
Yeah.
voice, find that
Yeah.
autonomy and be like, I'm
Yes.
going to make decisions that feel good for me and not just
Yes.
because I have the expectation that like I should do this because it's the right thing to do.
Yes. And I
Yeah.
think maybe it's worth mentioning, like, I personally find religion very, very interesting because the history behind it and people practice this thing and it's
Sure.
so like, so it's not that like I am like, if you're religious, like F you. I'm not saying that.
Yeah, no,
But
no.
what we think is so cool, I mean, I don't know if I'm speaking for Allie here, but I'm really not, but like that she was able to be in an area with people who believed that doing something like yoga was demonic, and she was like, this is literally saving my life
Yeah.
and this is what's best for me. I'm not telling
Yeah.
you should do it, and it like saved her life literally. And
Yeah.
standing up for that. I think that is super cool. And that could be like with anything, doesn't have to be
with
religion,
yeah,
but
with
yeah, it just
anything.
happened to be her circumstance. So it's not that we're like, we hate you if you're religious.
No, no,
Like,
no.
I think it's just cool that she was able to, go against the current to take care of herself.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of that. Like I'm I sometimes my sister, like we talked about in the episode, she has pretty severe OCD. And one of the things um she gets caught up on sometimes, and I don't think she'll mind me sharing this. Um, like, am I gonna go to hell doing certain things? And because
Oh.
I don't believe in that. I don't think that we're born to live our lives in a certain way because we're not supposed to go to hell. Like, not my vibe. So I'll tell her a lot of times. I'm like, and like, this is no disrespect if you are religious, but like my experience, I'm like, it is a silly book written up by like who the fuck knows what. Like, I could make up stories too, and I could make you feel bad about that. But listen, like, if you believe it, shout out. If you don't, that doesn't make you a bad person. That doesn't
Mhm,
make you any type of way. But because of the
mhm,
school that we went to, because of the people where you're surrounded, like, you are taught to believe this, but like, let's
mhm,
explore other religions, let's explore spirituality. Like, why is
mhm,
one thing fact? And it
mhm,
is something I I love to allow her to express that, because I'm like, you are allowed to feel all of the things and you're allowed to question. And that doesn't, because OCD is pretty intense. I'm like, that doesn't mean that like you're doing something bad. And so it's just, I'm all for I love having these conversations. And even like with medication, like I remember one time, and again, I'm going to do the things that work for me. One time I was having I don't even know how this got brought up, but some like punk ass kid was like, "Oh, like the pharmaceutical companies and like you don't need like, medications for antidepressants, just take mushrooms." And I'm like, "Who are you? You never
mhm,
know what somebody else is experiencing." And in the
mhm,
most respectful, disrespectful way possible, whatever you want to put it. I was like, you know nothing. You're like a young kid that's like sitting here like fucking high off his mind, and like, don't don't come out here like bashing things that like have literally saved people's lives in this room. Like, it is just, I'm always
yeah.
going to be like, do what works best for you. And
Yep.
like, be strong in that. Have those convictions. And
Yep.
like we were talking about in the interview, having a boundary doesn't mean explaining yourself and having somebody understand it, but you feeling really secure
Mhm,
in the boundary and the decision you're making. Which is, I think, one of the biggest takeaways I want you guys to walk away with,
mhm.
because boundaries are cool and they don't have to be expressed like how you see on like fucking like therapy TikTok.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be in your bio. Like, my boundary is do not DM me mean
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Just
Do
like
people say
just
that? Have you seen that?
no, 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 no. I'm just saying it's like
I wish.
I know. Like, you know how back in the day, not TikTok, the X, Twitter used to be like, it'd be like,
Don't
Maddie,
call it X,
okay,
girl. What in the
Twitter,
hell?
it would be like, your name, Maddie Martinez, is
Yeah.
going to the movies. Like, you would do it like your status
Is
update.
eating a bagel.
Yeah, it'd be like Manny Martinez is holding the boundary of, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be
Right.
what you're doing an update. It's just holding that. And something
Mm.
that I was just thinking about in relation to like health, I think there was some TikTok reel whatever I made, and it was just talking about like fasting in general and just like how
Sure.
women think it's like the answer for a lot of things. And someone commented below like, "Well, fasting has helped me so much." Amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm glad it has helped. That's awesome. Like, if you found you had X symptoms, like a lot of people have like brain fog, they find that
Sure.
fasting is helpful for them in the morning. Keep doing that. Like,
Hmm.
you love to be a Christian, keep doing that. Like, I'm never gonna tell someone don't do something you love and it's benefiting you. Like,
Sure.
I'm just not saying you have like I don't think we all have to adopt things that work for someone and you have to adopt it or you have to like shit on it. Like that's my
Mm.
belief of it. You know what I mean?
You're allowed to be neutral about it. But I think,
Yeah.
as we talked about in the conversation, neutrality is sometimes scary because
Mhm.
there's it's a gray area. And
Mhm.
maybe you have some thoughts and it's like kind of unsettling. Like people don't like uncertainty. That's like a major fucking thing. Like people get so uncomfortable with uncertainty. And if
Yeah.
you're secure with being uncertain and like
Yeah.
I'm not, that is going to cause me so much anxiety, but it shouldn't cause you anxiety. You should be like, I'm cool. Like I am secure in the uncertainty, but it is an epidemic. People are not okay with being unsure. But I like the idea of being unsure about things or not totally
Mhm.
agreeing, but it's like
Mhm.
if you're not doing anything wrong and it fulfills you,
Yeah.
maybe
Keep doing
maybe it's
it.
not my thing, but you do it. And I'm like gonna
Mhm.
fucking support that. And I'm gonna be like, hell yeah, like I'm gonna be your hype woman. And
Yeah.
that's okay. We don't have to be
Yeah.
fucking carbon copies of each other. That's weird.
Yeah. Again, like my best friend, like we are
Yeah.
so
That's a really interesting
yeah.
dynamic. I love
Hmm.
that.
We are so similar. We are very like she is very I mean I have pictures of her on my Instagram stuff because we were in Italy together, but she's very, very fair, like very, very blonde hair. Like her eyebrows disappear basically if she doesn't like get them done.
Filament. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yes, yes. But you know, like the way that I think I am an advocate for like entrepreneurship, if you have something you're
Yeah.
passionate about, is the same way she's like an advocate for like Jesus. And like I'm not kidding you, like she
No,
is.
I love that phrasing. I love
I
that.
know she is. And it's just so funny. Like we have such good conversation. And it's just like we are so similar, but like we will never align on that. And she'll,
Mm,
we'll have deep conversations for hours about it, just about how I'm like, interesting. What do you think about this? Interesting. Well, what do you think about that? Well, we'll just go back and forth. And
mm.
she never is like, Maddie, like you have to believe in Jesus and accept him with your whole heart. Like she never forces me to believe like to do
Yeah.
something. Just
Yeah.
we question each other all the time and we live in secrecy like totally fine. And I think
Mm,
if we could be more accepting that other people like, she gets maybe a little bit confused my curiosity about
sure.
it and like questioning, but is never like, okay, I can't talk to you anymore or you're a bad person.
Right. And that's the healthy part of the relationship. Like you are allowed to ask questions in a respectful way, in a way where
Mhm.
you're actually curious, not out of like probing and like being weird. Like we know
Mhm.
the difference. And
Mhm.
her being open, you being open, like that's what makes the relationship work because I'm sure
Mhm.
some people listening to it are like, "Oh, I could never ask the questions or we couldn't have those types of conversations" because both
Mhm.
parties have to be respectful and willing and like
Mhm.
I am curious because you're somebody that's important to me and it's a safe space for me to ask you these things and get your take on it. I
Mhm.
really enjoy that. I don't think I have anybody really like in my life or in my circle that like we have like such I wouldn't even say like opposing views, but just like belief systems.
Mhm.
So I like really am intrigued by that friendship and just like the conversations you're able to foster because it is a safe space, but you're allowed to be curious and allowed to disagree. Like that is a
Mhm.
trigger for some people. Like they're afraid to disagree with a friend, with a
Yeah.
partner, with
Yeah.
anybody.
Yeah, like I've never left a conversation with her about religion mad ever.
Mm,
And like I could think back how many conversations I've left with my own sister when we were like was fighting about things, and I'm just like "F
mm.
you" and trying to hang up the phone. I bet you've done that to your sister,
Well, I have actually two fucking hilarious stories. One time, I have to get my phone. She texted me this and she didn't mean to text me this. So that was like even more iconic. I love you, but I'm going to read this text
I
in
gotta hear
all
it.
caps. I can't even deal with Allie's attitude. She's such a bitch and so ungrateful. Second text, like I want to punch her right now. And she's in the next room. She thought she was texting our best friend. My text back was, "Hi, bitch." She came in to the room sheepishly after like 10 minutes and she was like, "So I obviously didn't mean to text that to you." And I was like, "Yeah, no shit." But then we like laughed about it because I was like, "You are so silly. Like
Oh,
you literally texted me that." And then the second time, we have such
oh.
a great relationship. She thought I hung up the phone. I thought she was about to hang up the phone. I was doing something. And I heard her literally say, "Ali is such a piece of shit. Like, why is she blah, blah, blah?" And I go, "I can hear you." And she goes, "Oh my God, creep. Why are you still listening on the phone?" I go, "I wasn't near my phone to turn it off." I was like, "Next time you're going to talk shit, just
Oh
like
my God.
hit the button." So, like, yeah, but that's some sister shit.
Oh, oh my God. I don't think I took a breath of air for like 30 seconds there. Oh, it's so funny. You're like
That's being a
contractually,
sister.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're contractually obligated to forgive her for those things.
Oh, and the funny, it's like it's like we are the type of sisters that all like will like punch like when we were kids. I don't think we would do that now, but like we would
Me
like punch
too.
each other and be like "fuck
Yep.
you" or like flip each
Yep.
other off, and then would be
Yep.
like, "Well, God, there's only two of us, so I guess like we should be friends." Like this is awkward.
Yep. Do we have the same childhood? Oh my God, that's so funny.
How much older is your sister?
22 months.
Okay, okay. My sister's like 3 years older than me, but like we always felt like there was never like a huge gap. But I
Yeah.
think it's just maybe like a sister thing when there's only the two of you, like
Mhm.
you fight like fucking crazy, but you're also like best friends because
Yeah.
the reality, who else are you fighting that crazy with? And then who
No
else are you
one.
going to be that fucking best friends with?
No one.
No
Yeah,
one.
100% true. I had a good idea. Maybe one day we should bring Lindsay on. That would be so
Yeah.
she would
Yes.
love that, and because we could bully her into starting her business. She, worked in student ministry for a really long time. Like, I never met
Okay.
someone more passionate about working with kids and mentoring, like, middle
Yeah.
schoolers, and, she was in when we were in Italy all together, she was, an RA for a American school that works with, like
Okay.
they have like a I guess you could say a satellite school in Italy,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
where the kids are there for like, a whole semester and, living in Italy, and she was like the RA basically, and
Yeah.
then teaching some classes there at the school. And that's how, we're like, we're going to Italy, because Lindsay's there.
Yeah.
But anyway, but she wants to start some kind of business with women's study and stuff like that. And I've been like really trying every time we talk, I try to like persuade her a little bit more
Yeah.
to do it.
Yeah.
But that would be a fun conversation, talk about religion with her.
Yeah, that would be. That would be because I think I love to hear people's experiences, right? Because again, we're all molded and our belief systems come the way that they do from our experiences, right? And
Mhm.
I a lot of girls that went to like middle school and high school is all the same. A lot of them like loved it and have these great memories and I don't. I like, yeah, I liked some of the people and whatever, but I don't look at back at it as like, I'm so glad I went there and it molded me and blah, blah, blah. I
Mhm.
am like, I questioned a lot of shit because just like, I don't know, like the stuff that they were teaching and then the way that things were like something that like were happening, I'm like, two and two is not adding up here. So I would
Right.
love to hear somebody that like has a really positive experience and like
Mhm.
I love an origin story. Like
Yes.
where like why are you the way that you are and
Mhm.
getting to learn that and hear and also like yeah, persuade her to do the like just keep planting seeds about the
Yes.
business. I love that. And like it's awesome
Mm.
that she has you to like to be so supportive where like other friends might not get it. They're like, "Oh, you want to start a business? Yikes." Like
Mhm.
you better be careful or what's your backup job? It's like, "Okay." I don't
You
have a backup
always
plan.
you like sound like an Italian mobster slash like a French man. Like your voice is like okay. We have been
Yeah.
podcasting for almost 2 hours. We need to stop.
A girl, what?
The
I didn't know
the
that.
police
You're
are
right.
banging at my door and they're like, I don't know what they're saying. I don't know where that joke was going, but we
Um,
gotta
get the fuck out. That's it. That's what
yes.
they're saying.
Like, it's illegal. All right. Thank you guys so much for listening and watching to Kinda Hot, Kinda Healthy. Please make sure to subscribe, rate, and review us so we can reach more women just like you. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you can stream podcasts. If you have a burning question about life, friendship, health, and 1 or 2 cents, email us at kindahotpod@gmail.com. That's KINDAHOTPOD@gmail.com. Bye.
Bye.